Welcome to Second Take and welcome to the first episode of 2026, a year already moving faster than political promises after elections. In this first episode, we follow two countries wrestling with power in two very different ways. Zimbabwe watches as Nelson Chamisa breaks his long silence. Zambia debates whether a president can rest while his currency refuses to. This is not about who shouted the loudest. It's about who waited, who organized, and who might have inherited the microphone when democracy stepped aside. My name is Ashwin Berry. This is Second Take. Let's get into it.
Ready to be entertained? We've got you. GoTV's got more shows just for you.
That's right.
More movies?
Yes. Jackpot.
More kids shows?
Of course.
And more football than anywhere else.
No doubt about it.
Yes, we've got more. And we've got you. Pay for your current GoTV package and we'll upgrade you to the next highest package. Get more with GoTV. At home or on the go with GoTV Stream. GoTV. Love it.
So, interesting times in Zimbabwe. Nelson Chamisa is back. Here he is in his own words.
I come to you at such a critical moment in the history of our country, possibly after 2 years, having left the dance floor, hoping that somebody else would occupy that dance floor. But I see there's none who has chosen to occupy the dance floor, and the dance floor is vacant. And I've seen it fit that I'm back on the floor to dance for my nation, to dance for the citizens, and to dance for the future.
The video begins the way all important Zimbabwean political moments do. Slightly pixelated, softly lit, and looking like it was recorded 5 minutes after the country's data bundles expired. Nelson Chamisa appears composed, unbothered, dressed like a man who has not been chased by riot police in a while. He clears his throat and says the words that immediately trigger blood pressure spikes in government offices. I am stepping back into active politics. Not returning, he insists. Stepping back in, which is the political equivalent of telling your ex, I never moved out, I just went to think. Zimbabwe leans closer to the screen. Vendors pause selling airtime. Opposition WhatsApp groups resurrect themselves like Lazarus with unlimited data. Because when Chamisa speaks after a long silence, the nation knows something is about to trend. If not, change. See, for almost 2 years, Chamisa had mastered the rarest skill in African politics: not talking. In a country where politicians issue statements about statements that are responding to statements, his quietness felt illegal. People didn't know what to do with it. Some assumed he had gone spiritual. Others said he was traumatized. A few insisted he was waiting for angels to deliver a party constitution from the heavens, fully signed and laminated. Meanwhile, ZANU-PF grew comfortable. The opposition had gone quiet. The rallies were gone. The chants had faded. The man who once filled stadiums was now filling only speculation. And in Zimbabwe, speculation travels faster than electricity. You know this. During his silence, the CCC, once marketed as a movement, not a party, discovered the dangers of believing its own slogan. Because when a movement has no constitution, no leadership organs, and no clear succession plan, chaos doesn't need an invitation. It simply shows up. MPs were recalled like defective kettles. Councillors woke up unemployed via newspaper headlines. Factions sprouted like mushrooms after rain, each claiming to be the real CCC, all using the same colors, the same slogans, and absolutely none using common sense. It became the only political party in the world that could hold meetings without knowing who was allowed to attend them.
Mornings just got better, Namibia. From the latest headlines to the hottest trends, we're bringing you the conversations that matter.
That's right. Bright minds, bold opinions, and a touch of morning magic. This is your daily dose of energy.
So grab a cup and join in on the conversation every weekday morning at 8 o'clock with Smell the Coffee, hosted by Diana Master and Aina Riza Quayo.
So, Nelson Chamisa watched all of this quietly, like a landlord observing tenants fighting over a house he still owns. When he finally spoke early 2024, he said the party had been hijacked. Zimbabweans understood immediately. The opposition hadn't lost support, it had lost structure. It was infiltrated not through ideology, but through admin. Not by speeches, but by stamps. The state didn't need tear gas, it needed good lawyers. And while citizens argued online about who betrayed who, the movement collapsed from the inside like a tent assembled without instructions. So Chamisa stepped aside, and the silence deepened. People mistook that silence for confusion. But in hindsight, it was something more dangerous: reflection. The kind politicians rarely attempt because it requires accountability. And accountability does not trend well. While the CCC burned publicly, Chamisa retreated privately, watching Zimbabwe drift deeper into economic fatigue, political apathy, and that familiar national condition called "we'll see." Bread got smaller, fuel got pricier, optimism became something people remembered from the 90s, and yet the ruling party slept peacefully, comforted not by popularity but by fragmentation. Because ZANU-PF has learned one eternal truth: a united opposition is a threat, a divided one, well, that's entertainment. Then January 23, 2026 arrived. Chamisa reappeared, not with a whistle, not with a crowd, but with a plan, or at least the promise of one. Agenda 2026, a citizen-driven movement. Zimbabweans rolled their eyes slightly. We've heard that before. But then he said something unfamiliar: systems, institutions, clear leadership, possibly even a constitution. The room went quiet. That's not rhetoric. That's administration. He admitted mistakes, said charisma alone cannot defeat a machinery built over decades, promised 6 months of rebuilding, uniting, formalizing. In Zimbabwean opposition politics, this was radical thinking. It was like hearing a politician say, "We will keep minutes." Suddenly, ZANU-PF was no longer laughing.
This week's decisions, today's debates, tomorrow's consequences. The agenda puts the spotlight on Namibia's most pressing issues and the people driving them. From headline makers to groundbreakers, we bring you voices and perspectives at the center of the national conversation. One story, one interview, the depth you'll not find anywhere else. That is the agenda.
Nelson Chamisa returning angry would have been manageable. Chamisa returning organized is unsettling. An opposition leader who learns from failure is more dangerous than one who pretends it never happened. His insistence that the 2023 election was fraudulent reopened wounds the ruling party prefers covered with patriotic songs, long speeches, Chivayo cars, and Tagwirei funds. Legitimacy is a stubborn thing. It doesn't disappear because you declare victory loudly. And while the economy continues to limp like a car with 4 warning lights on, citizens are once again listening. Chamisa's return is like that invasive plant in the garden you thought you had destroyed. You even planted new flowers, good on you. Then one morning, there it was again, stronger, quieter, annoyingly green. Not overthrowing the garden, no, not yet. Just reminding you that roots grow underground where slogans can't reach. He no longer speaks like a revolutionary. He speaks like a man who has read the post-mortem of his own movement. The firebrand has discovered filing cabinets. The preacher has discovered process. And for the first time, Zimbabwe doesn't quite know which version scares the system more. Because this time, Chamisa isn't asking people to believe in him. He's asking them to build something that can survive without him. Because ZANU-PF would rather face noise than numbers, marches than membership lists, anger than organization. Silence taught Chamisa something shouting never could: that power isn't always seized. Sometimes it's prepared for quietly. So as the video ends and his calm voice fades from the screen, Zimbabwe is left with a familiar feeling it hasn't felt in a while. Not hope, not excitement, nervous curiosity. Because when a politician returns softer than before, it usually means he's learned where the real microphones are, and they are not on the podium. We move over to Zimbabwe's Victoria Falls buddy, Zambia. It began as all modern African political crises do. On Facebook, not in cabinet, not at State House, not even in Parliament. Just a blurry poster, poorly cropped, written in capital letters, declaring that President Hakainde Hichilema had been rushed out of the country. Within minutes, Zambia's entire medical community on WhatsApp had diagnosed him with everything from exhaustion to expiration. According to social media, he was in Tanzania, unconscious, intubated, possibly already replaced by a lookalike. The only problem was that Hichilema was not in hospital. He was not abroad. He was not sick. The man was on leave at his farm, resting, which in African politics is apparently suspicious behavior. Because African presidents are not allowed to nap. They must rule continuously or be declared deceased by timelines that don't pay tax. The rumor spread faster than maize prices in a drought. Prophets scheduled emergency visions. Political analysts who failed Form 2 biology suddenly became cardiologists. By the time State House clarified, Zambia had already buried and resurrected its president 3 times online, unlike Lungu. Now, Hichilema responded to the rumors the most dangerous way possible, calmly. He phoned Diamond TV live, alive, breathing, sounding mildly amused. He said he was healthy, accused critics of politicizing life and death, and told them with the quiet confidence of a man who knows inflation figures to go and farm instead of lying. That sentence alone probably swung a few undecided voters. He then appeared in public, walking unaided, smiling, not even coughing. The rumors collapsed immediately, proving once again that misinformation thrives not because it's believable, but because people are bored. But while Zambia debated whether its president was alive, something else was happening quietly, something far more politically dangerous. The economy was improving. Inflation dropped to 9.4%, the first single-digit figure in 3 years. The kwacha strengthened so aggressively it began behaving like it had personal goals. By late January, Zambia's currency had become the best performing in the world against the US dollar. Not in Africa, in the world. A sentence no Zambian expected to hear in this lifetime. Copper prices surged, foreign exchange reserves improved, the central bank limited reckless dollar use, mining taxes were accepted in yuan, even the IMF started smiling, and when the IMF smiles, presidents sleep better, I'll tell you that. Suddenly, Hichilema didn't need rallies because the numbers were campaigning for him. We are bringing to you In the Mix Africa, broadening our perspective, focusing on African players playing in Europe, playing in Africa, the inner workings of their craft, every single little thing. And also, very importantly, tasting African food with Patty. Are you ready for that?
Of course, we're going to broaden up our taste palettes and we're going to take it to the whole of Africa. We're not just going to stick here in Namibia. Of course, it's important to also appreciate Namibian culture and food, but we're going to broaden it up, like you say, and we're going to try everything.
That's right. So join us as we take you beyond borders for the love of sport with In the Mix Africa. So, while opposition figures in Zambia were arguing on radio about whether Hichilema had been secretly evacuated, importers were quietly enjoying cheaper goods. Fuel prices stabilized, inflation eased, the economy, once the opposition's strongest weapon, began switching sides. And this is where politics became awkward. Because how do you campaign against a man whose currency is trending upward? I mean, you can provoke HH, you can question his personality, you can accuse him of being elitist, but you cannot shout down a kwacha that keeps appreciating. As Zambia inches towards the August 2026 election, the president wasn't promising heaven. He isn't showing spreadsheets, not utopia, stability, not miracles, management. And in a region exhausted by slogans, competence is starting to look revolutionary. Meanwhile, the opposition, busy doing what the opposition parties do best, reorganizing endlessly. The Patriotic Front, once the ruling powerhouse, remains trapped in court injunctions, suspended conventions, and leadership disputes that require flowcharts to understand. Every faction claims legitimacy. Every statement contradicts the previous one. PF has become less a political party and more of a legal case study. And enter Makebi Zulu, lawyer, former PF presidential hopeful, a man who speaks like he's cross-examining the entire country. In January, he officially left PF and resurfaced as a presidential candidate for the new Congress Party. A fresh platform, clean branding, same ambition. He spoke of renewal, youth mobilization, and removing Hichilema from power, preferably before the Kwacha appreciates again. Zulu's move was both bold and revealing. PF was no longer one opposition. It was several exits looking for relevance. His plan B was now plan A, proving that in Zambian politics, loyalty lasts until the next injunction. Then came the Tonse Alliance, a coalition formed to unite opposition forces and promptly divided itself. On January 28th, Brian Mundubile was elected its new leader and presidential candidate. He spoke of unity while standing atop the very fragmentation he was trying to fix. PF leadership dismissed his victory as illegitimate, banned him from contesting under the party, called the process an own goal. The alliance replied by inviting PF members to join anyway. At this point, even voters need a scorecard. Zambia now has a president with improving economic numbers, an opposition party in court, a former ruling party in factions, a new party with old faces, an alliance arguing with itself, and one unstoppable force, a currency that refuses to cooperate with political narratives. I mean, you have to see this. The irony is delicious. While social media declared Hichilema dead, the economy was very much alive. While rumors trended, copper exports climbed. While critics shouted, the Kwacha whispered confidence. In African politics, perception often defeats performance, but occasionally, rarely, performance punches back. And heading into 2026, Zambia finds itself in an unfamiliar place, debating leadership not on emotion, but on outcome. No drama, no spectacle, just mathematics, which is terrifying for anyone whose campaign depends on chaos. Because in the end, elections are not always won by those who speak the loudest. Sometimes they are won by the man who went on leave and came back with inflation in single digits. We are bringing to you In the Mix Africa, broadening our perspective, focusing on African players playing in Europe, playing in Africa, the inner workings of their craft, every single little thing. And also, very importantly, tasting African food with Patty. Are you ready for that?
Of course, we're going to broaden up our taste palettes and we're going to take it to the whole of Africa. We're not just going to stick here in Namibia. Of course, it's important to also appreciate Namibian culture and food, but we're going to broaden it up, like you say, and we're going to try everything.
That's right. So join us as we take you beyond borders for the love of sport with In the Mix Africa. You know, in Africa, there are certain countries that don't allow the other country to rest. Ghanaians will never allow Nigerians to rest, and vice versa. Zambians will never allow Zimbabweans to rest, and vice versa. And Kenyans, whew, they keep their foot steady on Ugandan politics. And this is how Kenyans on social media have been interpreting the victory of President Museveni and how elections are held in Uganda. Enjoy.
Banange, our country needs a change. We need to elect new leaders. You guys can elect me. I'm young and energetic. Okay? We need change, not the change of money, but the change of the country. Okay? Say change, Banange. Say change. Say change, Banange. Say change. Say change, Banange. Say change.
My beloved Ugandans, see, it is time for change. I cannot. We'll be vying for presidency. We'll be vying for presidency. We'll be vying for presidency. Banange! 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 Oh, guys, I'm telling you, if you elect me, Banange! 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 Is my poster ready? Banange! 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 I will be holding my line. Banange! Banange! Okay, quickly, guys. I want us to talk about our own. Banange! 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 Banange!
2,000 years later.
I am going back to farming! I am going back to farming! I am going back to farming!
So that's been the first episode of 2026. Nelson Chamisa making the headlines and returning quietly with admin sorted. Hakainde Hichilema going on holiday, taking time at his farm. Meanwhile, the Kwacha rising. We're learning that it's not always about the chats. Sometimes it's about the silence and the organizations. Fortunately, we don't have to play by those rules. This is Second Take. If you're talking, we're talking back. See you next week.